they continue to monkey with the power, y'all. And we're starting to see, and as we come into the summer season, we're going to really see the effects on our power grid. And, you know, I don't know, we keep talking about solar. I don't know exactly where we are in all that process, how viable all that is as far as cost per viability and all that stuff. U.S. is heading towards power grid reliability crisis. We see the same deconstruction in Germany. They're turning off their nuclear power plants in the midst of power issues. There are approximately 10,000 energy projects in April designed to produce more than 2,000 gigawatts of collective power waiting for permits from federal and state agencies to connect to electrical grids across the United States. So these projects are ready to roll and they need permits to plug in. The problem is that it's nearly twice the collective electricity output of the 1,250 gigawatts now being produced by all the nation's power plants, most of which were built to generate power using fossil fuels. And we really need to change the narrative because they're not fossil fuels, but anyway. But yeah, let's make sure we fight the talking points with the talking points, but anyway. Therefore, two bottlenecks are looming. More power is trying to squeeze into an inadequate grid, and coal-fired plants are being retired faster than new plants using renewable energy sources, whatever they are, such as wind and solar, are being built to replace them. The United States is heading for a reliability crisis, says the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. Commissioner Mark Christie warned on May 4th in a hearing before the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee. I do not use the term crisis for melodrama, but because it is an accurate description of what we're facing. And this is what the technocracy does. This is what bureaucracy does. It's like, don't fix anything, just drag it out, have all these committees, have all these acronyms. I think anyone would regard an increasing threat of system-wide extensive power outages as a crisis. Committee Chair Joe Manchin, he's a Democrat from West Virginia, and ranking Republican Senator John Barrasso agreed, with both identifying the same culprit in an impending but avoidable. Our energy crisis is completely and totally and utterly avoidable, but they are going to force it on us anyway. Thank you, government. The premature fossil retirements amid increasing demand for power are a result of President Joe Biden's green energy initiatives.
COVID has taken this year, just since the outbreak, has taken more than 100 years. Look, here's the lives. When you think about it.
In 2021, bipartisan infrastructure law. So if it was a bipartisan infrastructure law that was passed bipartisan, then it's not, then how can you pin it on Joe Biden? But that's interesting. And for some reason, the Inflation Reduction Act. What does inflation reduction have to do with destroying our power infrastructure? I don't know. That incentivize investments in renewable energy. So somehow incentivizing investments in lousy energy that doesn't produce a lot of energy somehow is going to stop inflation. But it sounds right. Yeah, it sounds about right. The incentives have proven effective in inducing investor interest, maybe too successful, with projects being proposed and approved sooner than expected and faster than the grid's transmission capacity is expanding. The Biden administration is trying to force a dramatic increase in electrical demand through the BIL and IRA, Manchin said, which will foster disruptions in transmission as old plants are retired and new ones come online. We do have to address climate change, but this transition is happening too fast, he said, noting he and House Republicans have filed bills that address transmission. I hope we can sit down and negotiate in good faith and put politics aside. Well, you can't, and you're all terrible. You're terrible at everything you do. Barrasso blasted the Biden administration for contributing to the pending energy transmission bottleneck by discouraging natural gas pipeline development. citing an April U.S. Energy Information Agency report that documented the least amount of pipeline was built in 2022 than any time since record-keeping began in 1995. Without restoring balance in the nation's energy equation that includes coal, natural gas, and oil, energy prices will skyrocket, grid reliability will degrade, and families all across the country will suffer. Christie was one of the 4 FERC commissioners to address the Senate committee during the hearing on the agency's $520 million fiscal year 2024 budget request. But few requests posed by senators during the session directly addressed the proposed spending plan. Under the Federal Power Act, Natural Gas Act, and Interstate Commerce Act, among other legislative and administrative actions, FERC is responsible for managing the nation's electrical grid. More than 5,200 megawatts of oil, coal, and nuclear power plant energy generation were retired between 2013 and 2022, and another 5,000 megawatts of coal and oil-fired generation could be retired in the coming years, according to the U.S. Energy Information Agency. Coal-fired plants that generate more than 200,000 megawatts of energy plan to shut down by 2029 because of the continued competition from natural gas and renewable resources and higher operating costs associated with older, less efficient coal-fired generators, the EIA reported in November of 22. It said an average of 9,000 megawatts of coal-fired electricity was retired annually between 2012 and 2021. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's the Biden administration's fault, right? That we've continued to retire these fossil fuel things since 2012.
Yeah, Biden was in 2012.
Yeah, that's Biden's fault. Yeah, that's the Democrats' fault. Yeah, it's all the Democrats' fault. Cool story, bro. Michigan, Texas, Indiana, and Tennessee will see the most coal-fired capacity retirements through 29, according to accounting for a combined 42% of energy generation in those 4 states that will need to be replaced. Natural gas is also leaving the grid faster than it is being replaced. In November, FERC anticipated 107 units of high probability natural gas units totaling 17,000 megawatts capacity could go online by September 25. Over that same time span, however, 130 units totaling 17,489 megawatts of natural gas power will go offline. So they're bringing new natural gas power online while taking slightly more natural gas power offline. This definitely sounds like a government gig. Sounds like a complete waste of time, money, energy, resources, and logic and reason. By September 2025, FERC anticipates that the amount of electricity produced by renewable energies will grow from about a quarter of the nation's power generation to 1/3 available installed generating capacity. Utility-scale solar and wind generating capacity would expand from 17% of the domestic capacity to 23% by September 25, with solar and wind accounting for 11% and 12% respectively. While the sharp increase in FERC's 3-year forecast for wind and solar, coupled with coal-fired plant retirements and the apparent peaking of natural gas as a source of electrical generation applauded by renewable energy components, even those who support the shift to renewables are raising alarm about the timing of a transition that is happening faster than government capacity to plan and regulate. So their problem, reaction, solution: create the problem, have the overreaction, then supposedly create the solution. But their solution involves less power, brownouts, everything terrible, because these are horrible, terrible human beings that are incapable of doing anything well or right.
And more regulations.
And that's why they get involved in politics. And that's why we recommend like extracting yourself from this psycho clown world and living in a parallel society with a parallel community, with a parallel economy, because the district of criminals, along with all the other governing technocratic bodies around the world that are steered by WEF and Bilderberg and Davos and all these folks, They just want to systematically deconstruct everything, which is why you need to get back to a more agrarian-based, slower, purposeful, meaningful life. And this is why we want to encourage people to do that, and this is why we do what we do. But yeah, so this isn't really good news. Like, this whole power shortage thing is coming, and so if you can put together a reasonable off-grid power system where there's actually a rate of return and it'll actually run all your stuff, I mean, I would recommend that you do that. I've yet to see that on paper yet, the way that where we want to invest in it, but we continue to investigate it and look into it, and hopefully we find a solution, because as far as like regular grid stuff, they're just going to slowly choke us out and cut us off, and then they're going to want you to plug your electric car into that. This is Clown World 2.0. This is where we live, so we roll with the punches. And this is a value for value proposition, so if you like the content that we put out and you appreciate it, please check out TheTexasBoys.com, where you can get unvaccinated organic honey, or some teas, coffees, native mud, or maybe some cool merch. But we love y'all. Thanks for watching. We'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.